Hello, Acres of Diamonds audience. I am Scott Gibbs here with co-founders of Acres of Diamonds, DJ Ligori and DJ's close friend, Mike Chase. And Mike Chase is going to talk to us about mental toughness today, specifically in a sport that he is pursuing right now and what it takes to be elite in that sport. And I'm really looking forward to it because I think I'm going to learn a lot, and maybe I'll leave here a little more mentally tough, or at least know what mentally tough looks like and feels like and sounds like. So I'm excited. DJ, give me a little background, or give us a little background. What are we going to be talking about today? What makes Mike interesting for us?
It's what makes Mike interesting, and that's a great question. You can ask anybody. But so Mike and I met each other in college. We both played football together at Fisher. And I always really respected his work ethic. I always thought that he cared about, his teammates and the product that he put on the field and the product that he also produced off the field. I was lucky enough to lift with him a bunch in the weight room, which I'm assuming led into, the sport that he has fallen in love with a little bit. So I was kind of following him a little bit post-college once we had both graduated. And I noticed he gotten involved with bodybuilding, and he was looking absolutely shredded out of his mind. And I take notice at that stuff, and I try to reach out to people who have that mental or that physical edge. And I saw Mike, and I was like, we got to get this guy on a podcast or something. And so, Mike, the first question that I had that I think a lot of people would be curious about is, how did you actually get into bodybuilding? Like where did it come about?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I got asked that, from my family and everything too. So, but so basically, through football, year round, we're always in the weight room, doing bench, clean, squat, all year. So we're always lifting weights, trying to get bigger and better, faster, stronger. So, I think kind of that attitude of just, being raised, being around that grind kind of carried over. And then once I finished my college football career, I just couldn't stop. I had been addicted to, every morning, wake up and head to the weight room. So I think it kind of carried over, and bodybuilding kind of allowed me to continue that habit that I was so ingrained in. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I was actually approached by my coach at my gym, and he had asked me, he was like, "Hey man, like, I see you in here every morning. Like, would this be something that you might be interested in?" He was like, "You can work out, very similar to what you are. Like, we adjust your diet a little bit, and we can have you looking the best that you ever looked so far." And it just got me very interested, and I'm addicted to the grind. So it was not much for me to jump in and get going with it. So.
Now, is the lifting different? Is it a different type of lifting than what it was during football?
Yeah, it's a lot more focused on, you focus more on the muscle contraction, and you focus more on, squeezing the muscle and really targeting very tiny spots. That we're in football, we're cleaning, we're trying to move weight, we're trying to get stronger really, whereas we're focused on performance in football. And in bodybuilding, it's more on focusing on the muscle itself. So it's more of an art than a sport, how I think about it. So it's cool. It's different, but it's very similar in some senses.
Mike, as a result of, I hadn't really thought about that just the way you just said it. As a result of learning what you had to do, have you become an expert in anatomy at some level, right? Because you probably have muscles now that you didn't know you had.
Yeah, and I think that's also interesting because I was actually a biology major at Fisher, so I did have some background in anatomy and physiology and how the body moves a little bit and stuff. So that was kind of some neat background to have. But definitely, as I got closer and closer to that competition that I was training for, I started to see, different parts, different muscles that you never seen before. And I think that was very addicting and exciting to see, I think.
That's awesome.
Cool.
So you became smarter. So
Yeah.
you became smarter with your body, the way your body looked essentially, and how to train it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you start to feel muscles you might never not have felt before, and
Yeah.
yeah, become
Now,
more in tune with yourself.
yeah, you kind of
Mhm.
become more one with yourself. But
Mhm.
off camera, you mentioned there were those 3 classes in the competition that you were training for. What were those classes again?
Right. So there's men's physique, and then there's classic physique, and then bodybuilding. So those are the three different classes that are judged usually in competition.
Okay. And which one were you a part of?
So I was gonna do the men's physique class.
Okay.
Hmm.
Gotcha. So no bodybuilding?
So no bodybuilding, I guess. My coach didn't see huge 25-inch biceps on me apparently. So
What is the men's physique? I mean, what's that entail? What are you looking to get done?
right. So the differences in classes is based on what the judges are looking for, in terms of what your body looks like basically. So in men's physique, there's 4 different poses. So you do a front pose and you do a side pose from each side, and then they look at a back pose. Um, and so really what they're looking for is symmetry. So, they want to make sure that everything is in line. You want to look physically appealing to the eye, is the main focus on in the men's physique one. It's all about aesthetics, and having deep cuts, having good lines. So it's all about, that's why I consider it an art really, is because that's what they're looking for. They're judging you on everything.
Yeah, it really
Nice.
is art. The more you kind of actually think about it. I
The
mean,
more you think about it, yeah.
it's like I mean, you think of like sculpture or like
Right.
pottery.
Right.
it,
Yeah.
you're sculpting your body, which I think is absolutely fascinating. Now, I just kind of randomly thought of this. Did due to the COVID stuff, how's the lifting been going and everything? You've been getting creative with it?
Right. Yeah. So actually, when the whole COVID gyms closing down situation happened, I was about 2 weeks out from my competition, and gyms closed down. The competition got canceled, and then I was kind of like, all right, what do I do now? So for a while, I was just kind of doing, push-ups, pull-ups, workouts, trying to stay fit. I wasn't really sure how long everything was going to be. Everything is so uncertain. Um, and eventually I ended up finding some weights, and then I think you saw one of the pictures that I had put
Yep.
up of, I had rigged up some little bench press with some raggedy old weights that I had found, and
Yep.
it's really just been finding ways to get it done since the gyms have been closed.
And now the reason I asked that was because I saw today on your Instagram the last video. Scott, if you get a second, follow Mike and then go watch this last video. It is awesome. It's exactly like I almost wanted to like repost the video onto this podcast if we can. But it's basically Mike just lifting things that he finds. I mean, he's doing lunges, he's doing rows with baskets full of like weight. I mean, it's honestly I watched it and I was like, this is freaking awesome. Like, we've had podcasts where we talked about the gyms closed before with our good buddy Tyler Farrell, who's big into fitness as well. And we talked about how when these gyms closed, we somehow had to adapt. We somehow had to learn, all right, we don't know how long it's gonna be until these gyms open. So we have to somehow figure it out. And when I saw that, I was like, Mike figured this out. He absolutely nailed this on the head. So it's absolutely awesome. So I love that. But the other thing I was thinking of, we talked a little bit about this before, kind of like the 3 areas. You had kind of like your nutrition, your actual workouts, and then kind of like the mental side. How did like the nutrition kind of change from, I mean, you could say like college to post college? Because I think, I've heard all the time that, abs are made in the kitchen. What you put in is really the most important piece to that workout. So I'm curious about your nutrition standpoint.
Right. So actually, the whole bodybuilding experience was just very, very mind-opening for me about nutrition because, you know, before we were always told, you know, you need a source of carbs and protein after your workout, you know, you need to drink water, you know, you need this amount of sleep. But I think being introduced into this into this world of bodybuilding, every little thing was measured out. You know, every single day at, you know, 6:30 a.m. I had to have, you know, a cup of egg whites and 300 grams of sweet potatoes, and it was like that every single day. So I think this just kind of put the microscope on everything, and it was like, yeah, you need carbs and protein before and after you work out. But then this is like, all right, how much exactly do I need? You know, weighing it out every day and adjusting it based on, you know, how you want to look. And so the nutrition, it was a very big learning experience for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Has that been the hardest adjustment?
I think so, definitely. And it's kind of nice because the foods are all very similar. So you chicken breast, brown rice, sweet potatoes, and a protein shake is basically the 4 things that you eat while you're on this diet. So it's very bland, but it tests you for sure. It tests the mind.
Yeah, I think that's got to be probably, you know, if we were to ask, you know, what's the bigger mental obstacle to get over? You know, not eating pizza, or I'm assuming, you know, drinking is out of the question as well. You know, all of the sugars, the fats that are bad. Is that harder to basically take out of your diet, or is it harder to actually do the workouts that you need to actually do?
I think for me it was definitely the nutrition because, you know, the workout is, you know, 60 to 90 minutes a day, and, you know, you go in, you do your thing, sweat a bunch, and you're done. But the nutrition is, you know, you got to wake up early to cook all your meals for the day, and then you got to find time to eat them, you know, during work, and you got to fight hunger all day, and, you know, you still got to try to live a somewhat normal life while you're on this very restricted diet. And so it's definitely tough. But I think the rewards come from seeing, you know, seeing the way that you start to transform and, you know, it's just one of the 3 parts, that ties into it, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
You ever craving like a pizza or anything?
Yeah, it was so I did like a 10-week prep or whatever, and I think I went like 6 weeks strong, and
Really?
the coach was like, "All right, Mike, it's time. You're going to get pizza tonight." I was like, "Oh," and, you know, I ate so much pizza, and then I felt so sick like the next day, and then it wasn't the next day because I still felt sick from the night before, but like 2 days later I was like, that pizza tastes really good again right about now, you know?
That is awesome.
So you stayed, your body felt bad for 1 day or 2 days?
So it felt bad for 1 day, and then my body, because it wasn't used to getting all those, you know, everything that's in the pizza. So I actually felt really, really good like 2 days later. Like I had so much more energy because I had all that pizza. So it was really cool to see how like my body used it and like my metabolism and everything. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, most people, I mean, most people are never going to do what you're setting out to do, right? And for someone like me that's not quite as mentally tough as you to do something like that, do you have any words of wisdom or insights of how to kind of ease into a more regimented diet?
I would say maybe a lot of people say writing things down helps. So write down the diet. So you could say, you know, for breakfast I'm either gonna have, you know, 2 eggs and some egg whites or this. So write it down every day so you kind of have it as an option. Another thing that I find easy is cooking everything beforehand and bringing it with you. So like if you have a long day ahead of you and you want to stay strict to your diet, cook everything ahead of hand. So you just eat what you make, and you don't have to stray from that. You're like, all right, I'm just eating what I make. So that kind of helps me just kind of stay focused on it, and not my mind doesn't drift and start to crave, because it's like, all right, I have this to eat and that's what I'm eating. So
What besides the nutrition, was there any negative impact to social circles, family circles, I mean, it seems like a pretty committed, disciplined, regimented, thou shalt do this, thou shalt do that, thou can't do this, thou can't do that. I mean, what does that lead into?
right, yeah. So it definitely is very strict. You know, you need your meals, your sleep, your workouts, everything. But you know, there's definitely always time for family and friends. You know, like I said, it is very strict, but you do also need that sense of human in you, so you don't go completely insane. You know. So that's why you do get that pizza every once in a while, or you do get that night out. So I think it is very important to include that balance as well.
DJ,
Quick on
how militant have you ever been with your eating?
I think I'm pretty good with it. I honestly am very conscious of what I put into my body, and I've tried the plant-based diet before. And I'm curious actually if Mike has any thoughts on that, the plant-based diet. And before I was doing the plant-based diet, I did the meat diet. So eventually what I ended up doing is kind of mixing both the plant-based diet and the meat diet. And what I've found is the more regiment I am to the nutrition and the food that I put into my body, the more apt I am to physically work out. And we talked about kind of that mind-body connection. There's a good feeling that you get after you eat a good meal when you could have easily not eaten something that wasn't as healthy. Because then you're propelled a little bit more to maybe work out harder that next day, or maybe wake up a little bit earlier, that go to bed a little bit later, or a little bit earlier as well. So I think the food that I have that I choose to eat, I'm 100% conscious of it. I know if I eat a piece of pizza, and I think we've talked about this before, I'd eaten a piece of pizza and I kind of felt a little lazy and lackadaisical, and then the next day I didn't work out. And it's like, all right, well, I ate the piece of pizza. Now what does it matter if I work out? 'Cause it's kind of like a -1, and then you get back to 0. So I think, it's a complete, it's a relationship that is correlated to each other with that mental nutrition as well as that physical stress that we put on our body. So I would say I do pretty good with it. What about you? What about you? How do you do?
I had a whole pizza for lunch. How's that?
Well, as long as it was a gluten-free, veggie, and plant-based pizza, then it should be all right. But
It was one of those non-pizzas from Wegmans in the prepared foods. 1,060 calories, I think, for the whole pizza, or 960 calories or something.
oh my, Mike, actually, how many calories do you eat a day typically to grow muscle and grow mass?
To grow,
Yeah.
it's got to be probably somewhere between usually like 3,500 calories.
Okay. So how many?
What would you take
maybe
in?
more than
What would
that.
you take in for training?
Like when when I'm trying to cut down, I think when I was trying to cut down, it was around like 2,200 or something like that. Yeah.
How big are you? How tall? How heavy?
So usually I walk around about like 5'10", usually $180, $175, something like that. Yeah.
Then
No,
for
not your-
competition, what would you be?
I would drop down like to 165, I think, for that.
Wow.
That's where I got down to.
You could probably feel it almost like, you can feel your body just probably tightening up, can't you?
Yeah. You can, like, and you wake up and you feel it, and you feel weak, you feel brittle.
Yeah.
But it's all about how you look, how you look on the stage. So you can't walk around all year looking shredded like that, at 3% body fat. You can't do that. But for that one day you can.
So do
When
you
I
have like an
turned,
thing?
oops, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you go ahead.
When I turned 50, I had a bet with a friend that I would be under 210 pounds when I turned 50, or no, 205, whatever it was, and 205, and I was 12 or 13 pounds over 205, 24 hours ahead of the weigh-in.
Uh-oh.
So I took dandelion root, potassium, and I did a super dehydration strategy where I freaking laid in a bathtub of boiling hot water with just my face sticking out. And I would do it in 10-minute stints. And I did that so I did it eight times in 12 hours. And I got down to 203 pounds.
Wow.
Wow. Holy cow.
But so I felt completely weak. Coach Prince Todd came over, DJ, to verify the weigh-in at like 7 that morning.
Yeah.
And he said I could hardly talk.
Oh, I can't. You were probably so you lost like 12 to 13 pounds in 24 hours, essentially.
12 hours. 12 hours.
12 hours. Holy cow! You should teach a weight loss program.
I took it. You know who Tim Ferriss is? Tim Ferriss is he's the author of the 4-Hour Work Week and all these things. So he studies how elite performers do things, right?
Mhm.
So he learned that in certain fighting circles, people would weigh in at like 160 pounds because they went through super dehydration ahead of times, and then their fight would be 24 or 36 hours later, and they'd put on 30 pounds of water weight in 24 to 36 hours. He said it was crazy. So you could get in there, and the rules were if you just push him out of the ring, you win. So he'd be 30 pounds heavier than everybody, just push him out.
Just push them out. Holy cow! It's the human body is. I once I thought of this question. I think I asked somebody. I said, "What do you think is more fascinating, the human body or planet Earth?" And I think more often than not, I think people said the human body was just what it's capable of, how it repairs itself, how it it's absolutely fascinating. And I think Mike, I wanted to get an answer about mental toughness. We talked about this in the beginning a little bit. I have I've woken up at 4:30 a.m. for about probably 2 to 3 months now, and there's some days where I wake up and I'm sitting there in my warm bed and I just kind of want to snuggle back in. And it's like, why do we do this? Why do we torture ourselves? And I was actually listening to a podcast, and it said that lifting and really good clean nutrition, it's voluntary suffering. We're voluntarily making ourselves suffer a little bit because we can sleep in if we want to, and we can eat shit and eat whatever we want. It's up to us. We are the ones who have to make that decision. So from a mental toughness standpoint, how do you keep pushing through workouts, pushing through your nutrition, your sleep schedule, your water intake, all of that stuff?
Right. I mean, and it's tough, it sounds like it's such a grueling, process too. It's like, how could anyone enjoy any of this, And I think it's all just, about looking for, finding small things to look forward to, if you're on a very restricted diet, you got to look forward to that one meal that you do get, that little bit that you do get, and it's all about just staying on the positive side of things. Sometimes when you get up at 4:30 before the world is awake, it kind of gives you a sense of peace and everything too. It kind of gives you a sense of drive, and it's like it's your time. It might be a sort of therapy or relaxation. So I think kind of focusing less on the physical side of things, how physically hurt your body might feel, or how sore you might be, or how hungry you might be, and kind of focusing on more of oh, I'm doing this to, you know, shape my body. I'm doing this to, you know, get my mind to a better place. And really maybe focus on the reason. I think that can help maybe switch someone's mindset a little bit. Or just help them get through a bad day where they don't want to do it, you know?
Mhm.
So it's just focus on the little things.
The little things.
Yeah.
That's interesting because last week we did a podcast about focusing on the little details of life,
Mm-hmm.
and focusing on we were breaking things down into smaller pieces. And I think, Scott, you had mentioned about how when we have these year or 2-year projects, it's much better to focus on these small areas. So from Mike's standpoint, if I'm training for a competition in 6 months, I'm going to focus on just today. And I'm going to focus on just this workout, and I'm going to focus on just this rep, and I'm going to focus on just this second of what I need to do in order to get to that larger picture. So I think that's a mental toughness, Mike, is something that we ask all the time, what's physical toughness? And we personally think it's non-existent, really, because if you think about doing a bicep curl, your mind has to tell your bicep to contract and pull up, things like that. So I'm curious, do you have do you have a judgment on physical toughness?
I mean, physical toughness. Yeah, you definitely have to be if you're putting your body through, it's breaking down and repairing every day, you definitely have to be physically tough, for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, obviously a background in sports has helped with that. So, well, I wanted to touch on that every little detail comment a little bit. So actually, me and my mom were talking the other day about this, and with everything going on right now, we were kind of saying how everyone's looking for this big change, the big solution, and we kind of always said the world doesn't need one superhero; it needs a bunch of little heroes. It doesn't need one person to save the day. It needs everyone holding the door, saying how you doing to each other, and I think that's kind of a good mindset to have. You don't need to do one big workout to get to where you want to be. You don't have to eat one healthy meal to get where you want to be. It takes every day little things, and I think that's a good mindset to have. Not even in bodybuilding or whatever, but in life too. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Completely agree with that. That was a little philosophical right there, Michael. That was very good.
It got me thinking. Got me thinking.
Did you say you were talking to your mom about that?
Yeah. We were just talking on the phone the other day.
Yeah, it's funny. I had breakfast with my parents today, and we actually got into that discussion too. Like, we were talking about leadership in the country in general and how we're struggling,
Especially
we're
right
really
now,
struggling.
right?
And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I agree with what you said. I think it's going to come down to, look, I'll take care of me for you, and you take care of you for me.
Mm-hmm.
A guy, Jim Rohn, ROHN, used to say that. And his point was, look, everybody take care of themselves. Everybody hold the door open for each other. Everybody do what they're supposed to do and quit pointing the finger at other people. And amazingly, things will start to turn around for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do the right things at the right time for the right reasons.
100% agree with that. I actually now, to both Mike and Scott, your point, I listened to a podcast this morning, and the podcast was called Plus One. And basically what it was explaining was, imagine if every day you had a plus one, meaning that every day you got the smallest amount you could possibly do to get better, you actually got better at. And so then I watched a video of the podcast, and they held up a calendar, and it basically had plus one on every single day. And it said, all right, so in 1 month you would have plus 30 then. And they said, now imagine in 2 months you'd have plus 60. And they did this for a whole year. And they said, after 1 year of just thinking kind of the stuff that we're talking about, mental toughness, getting past the grind, breaking things down into smaller increments, you'd have 365 plus ones. So you would have gotten better. And so it just hit to that point of, where life is a giant picture. It's a giant movie. And, sometimes you're a bodybuilder, sometimes you're a life coach, a teacher, a nurse. And in order to, paint and create this movie or this picture, you have to break it down into these small plus one and these small days. And, to Mike's point, we don't need one superhero. We just need millions of little heroes. So
Mike, I really, DJ, I think that's good to leave on that. That was very philosophical. What a great key principle, right? If everybody did that,
mm-hmm.
everybody's life would be better, individually and as a country, right?
Completely
Wonderful.
agree.
Very well said, Mike Chase. It was a real pleasure getting to know you today. DJ, thanks. What a great recommendation. And
yes,
that is podcast number 22, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
See you, Mike.
See ya.